My guest at this time, he is the founder of WCW Worldwide, WCWWorldwide.com. You can follow him on Twitter at RealBryanB. He's a gamer and an enthusiast. He is Bryan Barerra. Bryan, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for the invite, man.
No problem. I got to give you a special thank you as you are the inaugural guest on the Swervecast. So thank you for being the inaugural guest to my new show.
Woo, that sounds great.
All right. So before we get into the wrestling stuff, I noticed over on Twitter that you're quite a bit of a gamer. What have you been playing lately?
Funnily enough, man, I've been going through the Mass Effect trilogy. I just downloaded all of those onto my PS3, and I'm right near the end of Mass Effect 2. And I played these games way back in the day. I had my character go through, and for whatever reason, I just wanted to get back into that with the Andromeda coming up.
Yeah, there's no justification needed for playing those games. That's one of the best franchises I have ever played, I think, in my entire life. I love the storytelling in that game.
I feel kind of stupid because I'm playing this game over again, and I realize that I'm making the exact same decisions I made the first time around. Like, I'm doing the Paragon run through. I'm doing everything exactly the same way.
It's hard, though, because you start wanting to make decisions based on your actual, like, the way that you are, and it gets really easy to do that because you're just trying to be, you end up trying to be yourself no matter what, it feels like.
Yeah, so I guess it's been like maybe 3 or 4 years since the last time I went through it, and I'm just realizing all these story beats are pretty much exactly the same. Why is that? And then it hit me.
Now you know.
I'm doing the exact same thing I did back then.
Did you get the Skyrim remaster?
I haven't touched that yet. I think I'm going to wait for a price cut.
Okay. I will give you a hint. If you are a gamer and you're looking to use mods, don't get it on PlayStation. They have not released mods for Sony on the console editions of the Skyrim remaster. So there's that for you. So let's get into some wrestling. The reason we're all here today, right? WCW, one of the older wrestling foundations, one of the architects of the Monday Night Wars. What was it about WCW that made you fall so in love with it that you started this chronicle of collections and archives?
Basically, it's the one thing that introduced me to the world of professional wrestling. Whenever I was a kid, I went to a little video store around the corner, and I saw the NES WCW video game with the Road Warriors on the front cover. They've got the black shoulder pads. They got the face paint. Whatever it was for me, I guess at 6 years old, that vision spoke to me. I picked it up and rented it, and I just fell in love with WCW. And I didn't really get cable until maybe like the late 90s. So I wasn't a weekly viewer of professional wrestling as a kid, but I did rent the tapes from the local video stores, for the Blockbusters, for the Hollywood videos. So that's what got my fandom going. WCW was the thing that started it all for me.
Who were the biggest wrestlers when you started watching?
I guess whenever I first started watching weekly, that was right during the Monday Night War era. So the people that I recognized were the guys like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, but that was primarily through to the fact that I knew them from the WWF video game. So like the WrestleMania arcade game with Scott Hall as Razor Ramon, that's where I knew these characters from. So now when I'm watching it on Thunder Weekly, I'm realizing, all these guys are the same guys from the video games. Oh my God, this is like the best of the best of all these people I remember growing up. So that's what really struck me.
Were you around for the debut of the man of the hour, Bill Goldberg?
It's one of those things where I like to pretend that I was, but like when I really get down thinking about it, like I think that I had started watching around late 97. So he would have been right when I started watching or right before. I remember seeing his rise. I remember seeing the streak, but like I don't recall if I was there watching live.
Goldberg is set to have a match at Survivor Series this month against Brock Lesnar. It'll be the second match that those two have had, and I believe WCW is aiming to erase the debacle that was the 2004 match, or at least put up a better one for people to remember. Now, this match for Goldberg is kind of like a passing in a way because Goldberg might be the last pure WCW wrestler. Is Goldberg the last pure WCW wrestler still wrestling today?
I mean, Disco Inferno is still out there somewhere. I mean, I saw a YouTube clip of him getting beaten and pinned by King Maxwell. So that's a thing that exists.
Fair enough.
Let me think. I guess pure WCW wrestler.
Well, you think about it, we lost Sting last year to an injury, and Sting was one of the other big names. You know, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall aren't really wrestling, but even then, might not call them a pure WCW guy. You know, some of these guys that were born and bred WCW, this might be the end of that era.
Yeah, I mean, Diamond Dallas Page doesn't look like he'll be wrestling anytime soon. He's got his DDP yoga, so as far as just pure WCW guys, I guess he's pretty much it.
So is this an emotional match for you at a personal level then?
I don't know. Like, I love WCW, but I can't put my heart on the line because I did that with the Sting versus Triple H match at that WrestleMania, and I mean, that was just painful to get through. So this is going to just be a fun thing for me to watch with some friends, have a couple beers, and enjoy it for what it is.
Well, that's good because that leads me into my next question, and this is where we're going to start maybe to have a bit of an in-depth conversation about the situation. I'm a person, and on a previous episode I talked about this, that's kind of viewing this feud with Brock Lesnar as almost irrelevant because I think a lot of people think and expect that Brock Lesnar is going to win out here, whether or not that's this one match with Survivor Series or if they turn it into a two-match thing with WrestleMania involved. Do you think this feud matters for Goldberg, and do you think it's relevant in the long run?
Honestly, I don't think it should matter for him. I mean, at this point, he hasn't wrestled in 12 years. You have probably seen him more in the last decade at UFC events than actual wrestling matches. So the idea of Goldberg coming back and finishing off his legacy with this match, I don't think it should matter. But at the same time, I don't know who's going to win this. I mean, if Lesnar wins, that keeps him, as a strong character with the WWE. He beat The Undertaker, he beat Goldberg. He's unstoppable beast, but he hasn't really touched the championship in a year, 2 years at this point, I guess. So, like, maybe you do give Goldberg the win here and just send him on the down the road as the hero, and maybe you just screw Lesnar and set up a new feud for him. Like, I don't know exactly the best way to handle this, but this really shouldn't be this honestly shouldn't be something that matters to Goldberg. I think this should just be a fun little one-off and everyone be happy, and then he'll get the Hall of Fame next year.
So let's flip the script then. You're saying it doesn't seem to matter for Goldberg. No one's really expecting too much of Goldberg. Lesnar, on the other hand, has a persona that's been built for him over the last couple of years of dominance and destruction, ending things like the Undertaker streak and jobbing out John Cena even. Do you think Brock Lesnar in storyline can afford to lose to Goldberg?
Yes, if there's interference or there's some kind of shenanigans that cause him to lose the match. If it's just a straight up clean win where Goldberg reigns supreme, I don't think that works. There has to be some kind of smoke and mirrors that happens.
Do you think there's some justification for that kind of an ending? Or do you think that would leave people pretty disappointed?
I don't know. I mean, the last thing, everyone was booing. The last meetup between these two, everyone was booing him out the building, but that was just different circumstances. At this time around, I don't know how Goldberg's going to be received in Toronto. He's a guy who effectively ended Bret Hart's career, so you've got that going against him. Goldberg today is still a polarizing figure. Every now and then when I write about him on my website or on Facebook, people either love the guy or completely despise him. So it's a strange thing. I don't know how the crowd's going to be at this one.
Kind of speaking out loud here, it makes me think when you mentioned outside interference, the only possible situation I could see happening where that would make sense and not upset anybody would be if it was Paul Heyman getting involved, costing Goldberg a match and maybe setting up that final match at WrestleMania. Do you think that's possible? Do you think that's something that people would get behind?
To have Heyman side with Goldberg, that'd be a major thing. But then again, you would make Goldberg the heel in this. I don't think that's how that works. I think Goldberg wants to be the Superman. I'm
thinking more along the lines of Paul Heyman gets involved and costs Goldberg the match, just distracts him or something, and then allows Lesnar to get the dirty win so that there's that WrestleMania build.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I think you could compare this to Hogan and Warrior back in late 90s WCW, where Warrior was brought back in to give Hogan his win back, and then Warrior just completely disappeared the day after. So with this setup, I mean, I don't know if they would even want Goldberg to stick around past this match.
Fair enough. So Goldberg has always had a very proud and a very dominant physique. He's always been a very good athlete, going all the way back to his NFL days. And a lot of people have been poking at Goldberg's physique on Twitter saying, will he be able to wrestle at his age? Will he be able to compete at a high level? What do you think? Do you think Brock Lesnar will be able to compete at a top level? Or sorry, Goldberg compete at a top level?
I think he'll be fine. I think that after all these years, if you've seen photos of him on Instagram, you see that he's keeping up with, I guess, kickboxing or judo. He has his own gym out in California, I believe. So he keeps up with things. I don't believe that that's going to be an issue. I think that he might actually showcase different maneuvers. I hope he doesn't just show back up and try to be the Goldberg of old and nothing but clothesline and power slams, because I don't think you're going to be able to military press slam Brock at his stage in his life. So I hope that he showcases something a little bit different. I hope he does go the MMA route, because, I mean, that's all he's been into for the past decade. So it'll be interesting to see what he does.
Fair enough. What are you expecting from this match in terms of the actual match? Are you expecting a slow match, a fast match, a powerhouse, immovable object kind of thing?
I expect it to be brutal. I expect it to be a lot of punches, a lot of MMA style attacks from both of the guys. I'm hoping that Goldberg hasn't really been watching the WWE in the last couple of years and has no idea that blood isn't allowed. So I hope that he gets a blade job in and then gets pissed off because they stopped the match. Like, I have this weird expectation in my head of him just completely bloodied up and then trying to fix up Goldberg, and he doesn't understand what the hell happened in wrestling. Why isn't this allowed anymore? And him yelling at referees, throwing people around. I think you could do a lot of fun smoke and mirrors that way, to be quite honest.
You sound like me talking about Hell in the Cell.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I listened to your last week's show on that one. I mean, honestly, they were just handicapped from the get-go. All three of those matches, I guess with Rollins and Owens, that was pretty good, but the main event, they were just so handicapped. It was sad.
Well, thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for the good words as well and the content that I'm putting out.
Yeah, it's good. It's a fun show.
So let's jump into a topic of debate, because I have debated this as an individuals and as a group thing for the past couple of years. A lot of people out there are very against the use of part-timers, but it also seems like a lot of people have a weird bias where they're okay with some part-timers and they're not okay with other part-timers, and I have yet to figure out the logic behind that. But all the same, Goldberg is absolutely coming in as a part-time deal, a one, maybe two match situation. And it makes me wonder the continuance of whether or not this use of part-timers is a vote of no confidence in WWE's main roster, as in do they not have enough stars? Do they not have enough people that can draw? What do you think?
I think that's one way you can look at it. And honestly, I would probably go with that opinion as well. The last couple of guys that they've had with Sting and others that they had brought in to main event a pay-per-view, it's shown that they've moved the needle. I mean, Goldberg's ratings for that segment whenever he came back, it was huge, even though they booed him the next week with Lesnar. I mean, he honestly does showcase some sort of interest from general fans, and I don't know who else does that beyond, I guess, the Attitude Era, beyond the Monday Night War, because when you look at the guys from the early 2000s, I mean, who from that era can really come back and do anything for the ratings? I mean, you've got the Spirit Squad on SmackDown right now, and I don't think anyone even cares about that.
Well, and then not to mention the James Ellsworth thing is not making people too thrilled with SmackDown right now.
It's not so bad. It's all right.
So, do you think part-timers in general are a problem or a good thing for WWE?
I think it could be a good thing. I don't get super upset about that, but man, that is a hard question to answer, because I think that they are definitely leading towards there'll be a problem eventually, because Goldberg at this point, he's 49. I mean, like I just said, beyond that era, there's no one else they can go to from the early 2000s to do the surprise bring back to increase ratings. So there'll be a period where that era, it'll die out. And then you don't have anyone else to bring back. So then you've got to focus on the people you have around. The people like the Cesaros, the people like the Dolph Zigglers. You have to go to them to build your events. At this point, Ambrose has been jobbed out, looked like a chump for the past couple of months. I mean, he's supposed to be the future of the company, right? Was the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, but no one cares about him.
It's interesting that you bring up that point because my perspective on it has always been that if you're going to bring in part-timers, their end-of-day duty should be to strengthen the main roster. And the only way that they should be back is to make sure that someone from the current roster gets over. What do you think? Do you think that's a valid point of view?
It is a valid point of view. And you look at, I guess, the Dudley Boys, when they came back, they were kind of hot there for a second. And when I saw them at WrestleMania, they were jobbing to the Usos, but no one seemed to care about the Usos winning at all. So it's very strange. I mean, unless the actual current roster has some kind of actual heat behind them, then no one really cares.
And not to mention, who did the Dudley Boys make better in their run, their year-long run? Exactly. That's what makes me skeptical about part-timers and the way they're currently being used, because I get that you want to sell tickets, but don't you think it's a better idea to make sure that these guys with veterans who are names who still are established put somebody over on their way out so there's a legitimate rub-off?
Yeah, but in this case, I mean, you going to put over Brock Lesnar? Does he really need it?
You know what,
does Goldberg need it? I don't know.
That's the thing. I agree with you because I think WWE might think more so that Lesnar needs to beat Goldberg. I don't know. Do you think there's anybody out there that thinks Lesnar needs to beat Goldberg? Do you think anybody takes this as seriously as WWE does?
I mean, I guess we do since we're talking about
Fair
it.
enough.
But it's a strange proposition. I don't know who wins this one.
Fair enough. Well, let's round out the interview here with a different WCW guy who's made a re-emergence. And if it hadn't been for the long career, maybe could have been in the argument for a pure WCW wrestler. But Chris Jericho's reemergence as a top heel on Raw is a ton of fun, isn't it?
It's weird how he's just managed to reinvent himself and make himself an actual star when it seemed like for a while there he was just kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, don't you just love this, like the whole you made the list and you're going to get it? How does a guy like him get over such simple things? I've never seen anything quite like it.
I mean, yeah, it's super campy, but then again, I mean, just there's something about Chris Jericho, the way he looks, the way he is. That's just it kind of makes sense. It's that whole thing for years with him and that scarf, that stupid scarf. I remember seeing those photos. It's like, that is such a stupid looking thing. But this was just photos of him in his normal day-to-day life, and the reason he liked wearing the scarf was, well, I think like his favorite idol is Paul Stanley of Kiss, and I noticed that he dresses very similarly to Paul Stanley of Kiss. Paul Stanley's walking around with like this little blouse thing, walking around LA, and that's the kind of look he went with, and it is kind of annoying just to see that, and I think that's what he goes for. He just wants you to just be annoyed by his mere presence, and that's why he can get over. It's just he's a respected veteran who's just been kind of annoying this whole career.
Do you like his pairing as a sort of pseudo power couple with Kevin Owens?
It's fun. I think that what they're building towards, I guess that there'll be an eventual split. But right now, it seems that more people want the Jericho versus Owens match as opposed to the Seth Rollins versus Owens match, which I don't know. I don't think they should. I mean, they should lay off of that a little bit. But you could tell there's going to be a split here coming. I'm looking forward to it.
Where do you about think it's going to happen? My guess would be Royal Rumble.
The match or the split?
The match.
Yeah, hopefully Royal Rumble. I bought tickets for that in San Antonio, so that'd be kind of cool. But
that'd be a good one for you.
I'd imagine that come Survivor Series, there'll be some kind of blow up in that match that causes the split.
All right. Well, let's wrap our interview up here, Bryan. This was great stuff. We're going to play a little game on the way out, which I call Yay or Nay. Basically, what it's going to be is I'm going to cue some music in the background. You won't be able to hear it, but what it's going to be is we're going to play a little game where I'm going to rapid fire name off a couple of feuds or storylines throughout WWE and WCW history, and all I need from you is a yay or nay.
Sounds good.
All right. Are you ready to play?
Go ahead.
Stone Cold versus The Rock 2001.
Yay.
The Kane unmasking against Evolution.
Nay.
The Great War in TNA.
Yay.
Scott Steiner versus Test for the rights of Stacy Keibler's management.
I want to say yay on that one. That was kind of fun.
Indicting Heidenreich into the Legion of Doom.
Oh, Jesus, nay.
The Undertaker versus Ken Kennedy in a casket match.
Man, I barely remember that, so nay, I guess.
Kurt Angle as the Eurocontinental Champion.
Yay.
The debut of Taz at Royal Rumble 2000.
Hell yes. Yay.
Undertaker versus Mick Foley in the Hell in a Cell match that destroyed Mick Foley's face.
Yay.
And finally, we will wrap it up with... what do I want to wrap it up with? I can't decide. We'll go with the Hall of Pain.
Yay.
All right, Bryan, this was great stuff. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate the invite.
And while we are on the out, tell everybody how they can get with WCW Worldwide.
Just type me up into your Google machines. It's funny. WCW Worldwide, the Twitter, the Facebook, the website, the Tumblr, it all right now, it has higher Google rankings than the original WCW Worldwide television show. So you can find me all over the place. And I guess upcoming on the website, I've got some scans I need to clean up. I've got a kid's book that goes through Goldberg's career that I need to just clean up and get up on the site sometime here soon. So just keep an eye out for that.
Thank you so much for coming on, Bryan.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was Bryan Barerra of WCW Worldwide. Make sure you guys check out all of his stuff, his Twitter, his social media, his website. It's great stuff. He puts articles up there. He tweets all the time with all kinds of classic memorabilia, all kinds of original matches and things that you would make you scratch your head and go, oh my God, I can't believe that. I totally forgot about all of that. So check it out, guys, when you get a chance.